it's unfortunate that all of these things are happening in the Midwest. There's a lot of good people in the Midwest. I certainly love the area that we're talking about, but there is definitely some issues. So this is...
I still think, as much as anything, there's still the financial ramifications of why they are allowed to get away with this. That, more than anything else, is the biggest reason why we have the problems that we have.
Well, these three, Larry, Moe, and Curly here, are... I'm just floored that the young officer that shot Jacob Blake 7 times in the back is back at work. Like, I mean, this is just, these three are just, they're pretty low as far as I'm concerned. I'm not grasping what's going on. Maybe their pool of candidates in Kenosha County is really small. I don't know.
They sure have quite a look to them, that's for sure.
Yeah. These three, well, seriously, they look like the Three Stooges.
Well,
so you've got Kenosha County Sheriff, you got the Chief of Police, and you've got the County DA.
I wonder if they're going to say that these guys are having a bad day.
Oh.
Because that seems to be the hallmark of what often happens.
Now, in all reality, what's going to happen is that Jacob Blake's civil suit will be successful to some extent, even though a criminal case isn't, and he is suing the county, as well he should. And unfortunately, the people of Kenosha County are going to pick up the tab for it. And it's sad, like that's...
Which again leads to the biggest part of how we deal with police reform in the United States. Everyone is looking for that silver bullet, if you will. But to me, the best thing you got to hit them financially, and ending qualified immunity is how you'll get them in line. And it's not a question of getting one in line. It's a question of getting the heads of the, obviously the police unions, that's the biggest impediment, but getting the head of all of the sheriff's departments throughout the United States and all of the counties to basically say, we are not protecting our bad apples anymore.
Wow.
And there would probably even be clauses within the ending qualified immunity that would basically say, this whole, we don't ask questions, or we don't actually come out against our own. I do think that that's going to be the bigger component here. But the biggest problem, especially with any type of non-corporate movement in the United States, is people get way too caught up with 1,000 different ideas, trying to splice them all together as one. When you hone in on one specific idea and most people universally support it, that's your best shot.
Yeah, no, we definitely need to be ending qualified immunity.
You're not abolishing police. So get that out of your head. That ain't happening. But you have to figure out a way to change this narrative. If you want to get the 2/3 majority of the nation behind you on a specific issue, ending qualified immunity in crystal clear language is the easiest way you're going to get there. And I do think there's a shot to make it happen. I do.
Yeah, well, look, we've got 2 states now that have done it. So that at least makes it something within the realm of possibility. Granted, Florida will likely be last. Jeffrey Ginter, very happy to see you. You are one of my favorite people to follow.
And that's probably a very true statement in many respects, if you think about it. It's basically saying that, think of it this way. There was an expose that was done, I want to say on like Vice Media. This was maybe like, I want to say like 6-7 years ago, where they showed the recruitment of the white nationalists into the police departments throughout the country. Now, obviously, this is in more rural America. They would pick, these guys would be a lot easier to spot in like big city, suburban areas. But, in the places where they were able to ultimately figure out a way to get them into these police departments, they have the tattoos on their arms and things like that.
Wow.
Those systemic problems actually do exist. Now, how systemic it is, I can't say.
Well, no, and I think it's in a chicken and an egg problem too. And I've talked about this before. I think when you're offering work that is, that's so sweet. When you're offering work that is militarized work, essentially, and you're offering commando weaponry and all this stuff, you are going to attract a certain type of person into that career. So we have created a policing career that is much more patrol dominant than investigative dominant. And that is a problem. And you're getting certain people in it. Like, we need people with problem solving, investigative minds to get into law enforcement that want to solve crimes, not big bullies that want to arm up and go patrol the world. So there's definitely a difference in those people. So I do think it's like you want to give people weapons. They're going to want to use them. I mean, you know, and they're going to want to use all their big fancy weapons.
Then you get to an even more interesting component of law enforcement, which is they end up bringing in a lot of people who are ex-military, ex-combat veterans, and in a country that doesn't have universal health care, which in many cases does not deal with mental health crises that exist for ex-military.
You have PTSD out the yin-yang, probably.
So you're literally putting them on a police force. And could you even imagine how easy it must be to put ex-military in police departments where they basically, listen, I'm not saying they're giving them a cakewalk to get the badge and the gun, but I am guessing that there is a sense of respect for those who actually served in combat and basically don't want to make it difficult on them to have a new career. Because for a lot of them, having that career post military is not as easy as people think. If anybody has ever seen the movie The Hurt Locker, I would highly recommend it, because the real message behind that movie is showing how there are people who are so affected by serving in combat that they can never properly adjust to civilian life again. And that's why a lot of them do end up going back into the military and to serve in combat. So that's also
our jobs program.
Well, that's also probably one of the allures, if you think about it, to becoming a law enforcement officer. And I'm not saying that they're all like this. The reality is that most police officers overall are not doing the things that we see on camera. But what we do know
is that there is a
culture, there is a culture problem, there is a code of silence problem. This exists on Capitol Hill, if you think about it. You know, we put out the tweet earlier today about the fact that there is such a silver lining, not a silver lining, but there's so many direct parallels between what actually goes on in law enforcement and what goes on Capitol Hill. There are good apples who never, ever stand up to the bad apples. There's always this protection of the institution that comes first. And that is what has to change. The good officers in the field who know who the bad officers are, they know who they are. Like, I have no doubt that Officer Gutierrez, who pulled what he pulled on Lieutenant Nazario last week in Windsor, Virginia, I guarantee you the guy's got a rap sheet out his rear end. That's not the first time.
But clearly just very trigger happy, nervous, overly threatened, skittish people maybe should not have weapons.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe people that can't distinguish between a gun and a taser when frightened shouldn't be carrying a gun and a taser. And I'm just throwing that out there.
And again, if you watch the video of what happened with Dwayne Wright, it happened so fast. It happened in a matter of seconds. And the fact that you're reacting in such a way, and it's not like she was alone. There were 4 other officers on the scene. I still am
not sure why she was pulling out her taser. He got pulled over for air fresheners. It's ludicrous. This is ludicrous. And that she felt so threatened that she panicked and couldn't I don't care. First of all, okay, if you can't tell the difference between a taser and a gun in your hands, you should have neither of those things. Okay. And I don't care how stressed out you are. And if someone like that causes you so much angst and stress when you have other officers around you, you really ought not be in law enforcement. So, you know, I do think there's a case against her for this, for sure.
No, absolutely.
And, I mean, you know, kudos to them for, you know, she stepped down, but they would have fired her. I believe that. I mean, she probably went about it in whatever was the best way to receive any sort of dignity or pension that you possibly can, I guess, whatever the rules are.
And so, again, not defending the actions. I'm just simply saying that if anybody knows anyone who's ever been a police officer or any, you know, worked in any type of hierarchical structure, it's very difficult when you don't have any wind at your back to try to protect you from the ramifications that come. Remember, for most people, this is their livelihood, and they know that it could be tossed out like that. And that's how the capitalist system stays in place in the current manifestation that it is, because most people are fearful of any type of reprisal. It's one of the greatest indictments on why the Bessemer, Alabama union Amazon warehouse workers did not unionize. Now, of course, I have no doubt we don't even know the extent of the type of brutal tactics that Amazon had employed to prevent them from doing it.
He was in bed with the local police, the sheriff's office. I am sure they were scaring and intimidating those people like it was nobody's business. There was no way that was a fair election. And I would never have expected it to be. So, you know, it's just, and we still need to keep chipping away, and they still need to keep chipping away. And next time you'll get more and more, but I have no doubt that this wasn't remotely fair and that there was serious intimidation happening to the people in that town. Thanks for watching. If you want to support our mission to transform politics into service, please like this video, subscribe, follow us on social media, and consider joining our Patreon, where you'll get early access to our interviews as well as other exclusive content. Links are in the description. Peace out.